Okay. Welcome, everybody, to this week's MSP Sales Podcast. I'm Tim McNeil, and I'm joined today with my co-hosts, Rob Rogers and Allison Trisco. How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great, Timmy. How you doing today?
I,
Happy Friday, sir.
Happy Friday.
I can sit in a chair now. So
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good.
happy.
Yeah, you were sitting on that donut cushion there for a while,
I
right?
was. For everybody out there wondering, I tore my hamstring about as bad as you can possibly tear a hamstring about a month ago, and I'm just finally able to sit in a chair. So it's good times.
Yeah. Glad to have you back, buddy.
Yeah. Anyways, this week's topic, what we're looking to focus on is just the importance of being in local events, being associated with local events, whether it's BNIs, chambers, associations, whatever that might look like. Right, and every area has their own groups that you can join. One consistent is generally BNI groups are all over the world, actually, and chambers as well. We wanted to have a brief conversation around how salespeople can use these to their benefit, when they should join, what they should do, and what it all looks like at the end. Mm-hmm. So I guess, Allison, you have historically dealt with more reps than Rob and I have. So I guess I'll turn it over to you and just see what you think about just where to go, when to go, and how to do it.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, when we have new reps that come out of training that we're managing, this always comes up as a topic, like where can I go? How can I network? What can I do? And sometimes the rep comes into the fold. Maybe they've done this before, but maybe they've dabbled, right? That's typically what we'll find. And even on the MSP side, we'll find that maybe they belong to a chamber, but they're member only. They really aren't going out and attending. And we have others that go to every event. For a new rep, once they come out of training, they should, within the first 30 days of their ramp up outside of training, rolling up into their position, start to identify what's out there. Like, does their MSP belong? If they don't, how many are in their area? If we're talking chamber and BNI, which ones might they want to engage in, so that when they're going into their 60 days, 30, 60, 90, you identify at 30 days, 60 days, 45 to 60 days is when you want to start getting out there. Most chambers will allow you to come in without being a member, just to check it out, because you want to make sure too that they're active, they have active participants. You may find that you've got more than one in your local area, and one is a little bit bigger than the other. Maybe they operate a little differently. So you want to really make sure you're picking the right one. And you got to know it's going to be a slow burn, meaning it's relationship building, it's referral building. It will help you over time with your pipeline, but these aren't going to necessarily be immediate pipeline, immediate wins.
Yeah. I like one thing, I do want to, Timmy, I want to pose this to you because you did a lot of these back in the day. How many, like if a ramp is fully vested and they're going out and doing all these networking events and they're meeting all these people, how many should be the bogey? What should be the goal of a rep doing this per week, so they don't just do a bunch of networking events and don't do any of their regular prospecting?
Yeah, I mean, so we used to call them BLBs, either breakfast, lunch, or beer, right? And I was responsible for going to 3 events. Argument's sake, we'll just call them events. 3 events a week. One of them was always a BNI for me personally, and then a spinoff from that could be, at the time, could have been the West Hartford Chamber, could have been Construction Institute, which we'll talk about associations in a minute. You want to, as a salesperson, you want to float that line of, you want to be out there, you want to be meeting people, you want to create those centers of influence. But, Rob, to what you kind of alluded to, it's really easy to fall down a rabbit hole and start doing these things all day, every day. I mean, there are events for everybody, for every industry, and they can really legitimately take up a lot of your time. That's where you've got to be very specific and pinpointed with where you go. And what I just, as an extension of one thing that Allison said about going to a BNI and how it's a slow burn, specifically around BNI, the way they work. And I'm actually finding, I actually just heard of a chamber today that's doing the exact same thing. They're only letting in BNI specifically, they only let in one industry per group. So every area, generally speaking, every area has more than one BNI group. I can speak to upstate New York where we are. There's 4 or 5 groups within 30 minutes of me. In the Hartford area, there were probably 10 of them. And you just have to find that one group that doesn't already have an IT person in it so that you can go in and be that subject matter expert.
That's good. Hey, Trisco, I have a question for both of you.
Mm-hmm.
You have a rep and they just started. And where would you say is the best bang for their buck for they can only do one association, chamber, or BNI. They can only do one,
Mm-hmm.
right? What in your experience has been the best? And I don't know if I even mean getting appointments out of the BNI group or getting relationships. I don't know what I mean, but where do you direct your employees to?
To start with chamber, and then from there, once they get their feet wet, to start looking at associations that are in the area. So 2 separate things, right? Chamber, you're going to be able to go in and you're going to be able to have a venue that you could practice your pitch, because you're going to have to get up in front of other members. You're going to have to, it's going to help you with your, pitch practicing on the individuals if you start doing coffee or networking meetings with them. But it's also going to allow you a space to bring in a subject matter expert, your MSP owner, someone from tech, and actually give an educational, information panel, pick cybersecurity, pick a topic. So that's a great starting point. It also tailors off into other things. Like we were talking the other day about ribbon cuttings and events after dark and other networking type things that they can kind of, go chase after. Once they get their feet wet with that, then start looking at associations. You can get play on, depending on where you are located in the US, right? If you've got a lot of manufacturing in your backyard, look at the local manufacturing associations, look at the legal associations. We have it's like a 4-page doc that we put together that just has lists and lists of associations that you could take a look at and find if they're in your area. But I would start with chamber and then go association.
Yeah, I would say basically the same thing, right? Whether it's a chamber or a BNI, I think there's advantages to starting out at a BNI or starting out at a chamber. You can use them in very similar formats. At the end of the day, what you're looking to do as a salesperson who's coming in new to these things is master depending on how large the group is and how much time you have, master your 30 or 60-second pitch. And then you've got your one-on-ones with people in the group after that, where you can start to create your centers of influence. The chamber has a little bit, I would say, an elevated element to it from the standpoint that most chambers have other networking events, whether it's a grand opening and they've got they're having a party or something like that, after hours event, something like that. So that's an added benefit of being in a chamber. That said, it's also generally filled with more salespeople and less owners. So that's where you've got to float that line, find out what works best for you in your territory. I would generally default to starting at a BNI. But
for a sales rep, you mean for
a sales rep? But there's it's almost a 1 and 1A to me. It really is. Like, you're going to have a better chance at a BNI to be in front of owners. However, they tend to be a little bit more business to consumer. So that's another thing when you're trying to find a BNI, make sure that you find a BNI that has as many B2B companies in it as possible.
Even if they're small, Tim? So are you saying, like, even if it's a small group, but they're still B2B, that helps you in the long run by the second level? You're having a relationship with them and you're building your circle of influence because you know that they're B2B, you're B2B, so it all makes sense in the long run?
Yeah, generally speaking.
Okay.
But again,
so go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to say that doesn't take away from a chamber. It just, every area is different. You've got to really evaluate both sides of it.
Okay, so that brings up another question for me. So we've talked about the rep. You got a new rep coming in. Timmy, you're on the side of have that rep go into a BNI so they can practice their pitch over and over and over and build up their circle of influence. And Trisco, you're saying do the chamber first from your side of it because they have leads groups there. They also have after hours events, and you can have more people that you can practice with. That's the rep side. What if you're an owner and you don't have a rep? Where would you, if you're an owner and you can do one or the other, which one would you do, or which one would you guys suggest that an owner do if they don't have a sales rep and they have to do the marketing themselves?
You want me to go first?
Yeah, I'm throwing this right your way.
Yeah, because I'm jumping in. Yeah, I would, if I was an MSP owner and I didn't have a rep, I would go chamber. And the reason I would go chamber is because I know I'm going to be able to get in front of that group, tell them exactly who I am, what I do, and start looking for referrals. So yeah, I would go chamber if I was owner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed.
Timmy?
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, out of the BNI and chamber comparison, if you're an owner, chamber all day. And the reason, and I know that may sound weird because I just mentioned that it's a lot of salespeople and marketing people that tend to go to chamber events. Where the rubber meets the road with the chamber as the owner is your goal when you join that is to legitimately be the subject matter expert in your area for that chamber. And what that really means is not only should you be holding events at your location, you should figure out a way to get involved more heavily in their award ceremonies, golf tournaments. Ideally, there's a scenario where you can get in front of a room and talk to them about just how an MSP works, how your security stack may work, depending on how you're set up, and really be that go-to person for the chamber. I mean, from an owner standpoint, I think that would be a much better opportunity.
Okay.
You know, and the other thing to mention too, whether you're chamber, BNI, you know, the offshoots on this stuff, young professionals group, right? The networking after darks and all that, associations, they have a board. So when they have a board opening, they'll also come to you. We've got a couple of people that are in this situation currently and say, hey, we've got an opening. Do you want to sit on our board as that, you know, IT resident expert? Or yes, the answer is always yes, because of what you can learn.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, so now I have another question for you, and this is another who's got the idea here. Okay, so Trisco, in the beginning, you had mentioned that if there's several different chambers in your area, which one do you choose? And so I put it to you like this: you look at your list and you see the chamber, and you see the entire list of people that are in that chamber. And as a rep, you're looking at it. Do you choose a list that has more of your client deck in it, or do you choose the list that has more of your top 250 prospects in it? Which would you rather be in, Trisco?
Ooh.
Yes, I did it.
I would probably target the one that had more in my top 250.
Okay.
But I would still go to both to see who's active, because then here's the next question. How current is the list? Are these active members? Do they go to the meetings? So I would still go and check out both, but I would lean toward one that might have people in my top 250. The
top 250. So you would tell your rep to go to the top 250 prospects?
Yeah.
Okay. Tim, what do you think?
I mean, I could see either side, right? Yes, you want to get in front of that warm 250 list, but you can also use your current clients as an advantage to just get introductions. So I think to me, it's a little bit of personal preference in understanding what your personality is as the MSP owner, and where you think you can excel, whether it's, for lack of a better term, hitching a ride on one of your current clients when you're at an event, or just going up to your somebody who's on your warm 250 list and trying to get in that way as well.
Well,
what if it's a rep?
I'm going to pitch this back to you. Am I an account manager or am I a B2B sales rep? I'm going to look at this differently.
Oh, now we're getting deep. Yeah. Okay, so now you're saying we're a rep, and the rep, is it an account manager rep or is it a hunter, new logo hunter? Okay, so now what do you do? Trisco, you got your new one. What do you do?
Well, if I'm an account manager, I'm going to go to my current client deck.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But I do. I mean, look, we're talking a lot about chambers and BNIs, and we should be, and everybody listening to this should have that. Where I think it's significantly more important as the MSP owner, when you're looking at groups to join, find associations in your area that happen to be in industries that you focus on or have a large contingency of clients in. That is as important, if not more important, than joining a chamber.
For
And
the owner side, Timmy?
for the owner side,
Got it.
I would
Okay.
honestly, I would argue that short and probably midterm for a sales rep, they're better off in a BNI or chamber. Long term, as they really understand their role, there's probably an argument that staying involved in one of those, whether it be BNI or chamber, still, yeah, sure, still do it. It should be a larger push to the association. So, where the associations are different is it tends to be all like-minded people in a similar industry. And if it's an industry that you're already in, I know I mentioned it before, but the goal there is to be the subject matter expert in the IT field, or whatever field that you're in, right? And that is the goal. And if you can be that thought leader for a group of, I mean, let's say it's a law association that's got 150 lawyers associated with it, not for nothing. That's a good day if you can be the subject matter expert in that industry, if that's something that you focus on.
Yeah.
So Timmy, we've done a lot of associations back when we were in the MSP industry. We had construction, we had architects,
Yep.
we had council of small government. We
Yep.
did a lot of them. What
Yep.
was the most profitable for you as the person, closing deals all the time? Which one did you feel was the best for you?
I mean, for us back in the day, Construction Institute, it wasn't even close. I mean,
So
even though,
construction was the best one for you?
well, I mean, yes, there's the story behind the story is the Construction Institute in Connecticut. It was a statewide association, and even though it said construction in the name, I'm sure that's what it was once upon a time. But even 12, 15 years ago, what it had really transitioned to was a lot of manufacturing and a lot of engineering companies. So we didn't really focus on the construction companies, candidly. We found a really nice niche with the high-end manufacturing and the engineer companies. So that was a really nice way for us to get out in front of companies that we may have not otherwise met.
You're being a little bit humble there, Timmy. I remember this. It was a couple of things. It was not only that it was the association, but you built up the relationship with the key decision makers in that group. Number one, and number two, you became the subject matter expert for them. They could always ask you a question, and they did. So you built up your relationship both on the social side and on the knowledge base side, and then
Yeah.
they would come to you for those for those different types of things that they were looking for.
Yeah.
So you're being a little humble there, and I've never seen that happen with you, Timmy. Usually you're out there, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I
Okay.
mean, but the other thing I would say to that is, look, there was no coincidence that there were a lot of companies on my Warm 250 list that were also involved in the Construction Institute. So it made it a much easier transition into that and having those conversations.
Well, and you know what, to that point too, I mean, we have an MSP here, and one of the things that they're part of is the Home Builders Association. Now, when these builders go out and they build, a dozen homes or whatever they're doing, they go and they do these walkthroughs. So the people that show up are there's real estate people there, there's investors there, there's construction there, there's engineering there, when they're putting in a full community, right? So I mean, there's a lot of play you can get there.
Yeah.
Okay. Guys, we're coming up to the end of our time here. I really appreciate it. Allison, do you have any closing thoughts on this topic before we kind of, shut it down here?
Just get involved and don't discount chambers and BNIs. And if you do it within your first 45 to 60 days, where you identify in the beginning and then get out, 45 to 60 days in your chair, get out and engage. That's the only way you're going to build it.
Okay. Tim?
Just know that it takes time. You're not, especially on the BNI and chamber side, don't expect a lot of first-time appointments. There are going to be more networking appointments and centers of influence. But as a new rep in the industry, that's kind of what you need in the beginning. There should be a mix of getting out there and having people understand what you do, while at the same time asking for referrals while you're in those meetings.
And like for my side of it, I'll say, listen, if you're an owner and you have your sales rep out there and you're telling them to go join a chamber or an association or a BNI, don't let them do more than 2 to 3 appointments a week in that networking vein. That's about the max.
Yep.
And if you're an owner and you're going to be doing this, I can tell you, just try and be comfortable being uncomfortable, because 95% of the other owners out there are not doing this. And if you can become a subject matter expert for one of those associations, I guarantee you most of the other owners are not doing it. And that's how you're going to get the competitive advantage over everybody else in your territory as the owner side doing this. Allison, Tim, this was a good one. I love talking about these different strategies, and I like the back and forth on this one between you two and the differing ideas and how to get this done for people. For everybody who's still listening to us at this point, this episode will be up on LinkedIn, and we will also have this up on our website, osrmanage.com, and it will be available in any of your podcast forms that you choose to use. Allison, Tim, until next time.
Bye, guys. Enjoy the
Have a
day.
good one. Yep. Talk to you later.